Okay, we're back with day 9 of our 30-day raw vegan journey. My name is Kurt, and today I'm going to be talking with Lisa about body fat and our concerns about weight. Now, there are many aspects to health, but weight seems to be the primary focus for a lot of people.
Very much so.
So can you talk about, Lisa, what fat cells are and what's their purpose?
Sure. Well, like you said, fat cells do serve a purpose. They, for example, protect vital organs. They insulate the body against heat loss. They also control chemicals that control women's monthly cycles, as well as the chemicals that control our appetite. So there are several functions that they serve, but they also store toxins and starches. That's why a lot of people have heard, you know, when you exercise, when you do aerobic activity like walking, swimming, biking, doing the elliptical machine, that you should do it at a moderate pace for 20 to 30 minutes. The reason is that it takes the body about 20 to 30 minutes to start using fat as its primary fuel source, because what it's going to use first is glycogen or sugar. And that's what that's about.
Okay. Aren't there different ways to calculate body fat percentages?
Yes, there are 3 main ways, but I have an additional 4th, which is my favorite. The gold standard is the hydrostatic weighing, which is when you go into a facility, usually like an athletic center or a gymnasium that trains athletes or a university, and you submerge yourself in this tank, and it compares your weight in the tank of water versus your weight on dry land, and it calculates your body fat percentage. Now that's the gold standard, but it's expensive and you have to go underwater, and if that's not really what you want to do, then that's not ideal for you. And the next one will be skinfold calipers, which use these little calipers to squeeze the fat away from the muscle in different areas of your body. There are different landmarks for men than there are for women. That gets put into a formula and you get the body fat percentage. But there's error associated with the skinfold calipers. For example, if you have 2 different people doing the measurements at 2 different points in your life, or if they use different landmarks, that could throw it off, as well as if you've just exercised.
Oh, okay.
And then the most commonly used is bioelectrical impedance analysis, or BIA. You see this a lot on nowadays on bathroom scales, where you can weigh yourself, and then also it gives you your body fat percentage. Or you'll see them in devices that you can buy online or at sporting goods stores, where you hold them in your hand, press a button after you put in your gender, age, and weight, press a button, it sends an electrical signal through your body, which you don't feel, and it gives you your body fat percentage. The problem with those is that they're not quite as accurate as the other 2 methods, and if you've just taken a shower, if you have just exercised, or if you're dehydrated, it can throw the results off.
Okay.
But, you know, and then my way, the 4th way, is go by how your clothes fit, and that can tell you if you're probably losing fat or gaining some lean.
And that's very practical and cost effective.
Yes, very cheap.
Now there seems to be an abundance of focus on physical appearance, specifically the weight issue when we talk about different dietary lifestyles, and raw vegan lifestyle is no exception to that.
No.
There's a lot of people also focused on weight there. So is this focus on weight really a strong measurement for our health?
Not necessarily. A person, let's say a person can be thin but be very unhealthy because they're not absorbing nutrients. Maybe they're lymphatically constipated, not just like their colon is constipated, but lymphatically their cells are constipated with mucus-forming foods that they've consumed over the years. I know that a friend of mine, she was very thin but very pale. She had headaches often, had allergies, always sick. And I would say, you know, I think you need to cut out the grains, dairy, and sugar, because that at least will help with some of this.
Very good.
And, you know, she wouldn't do it. She had a strong addiction to these things, as is understandable. She even went to a holistic doctor who did all kinds of testing on her, like saliva testing, and put her on some supplements and vitamins. But the thing is, when you spend your money on supplements and vitamins, when your body is not in a place where it is digesting, absorbing, utilizing and eliminating properly, then that's kind of a waste of money because it's not helping you quite as much. You really need to clean up what you eat to really have the absorption going on.
Okay.
Another example in someone that I know through someone I know is an older lady who was very thin, but she had high cholesterol and she had high blood pressure. So her doctor says, okay, we're going to put you on a low-fat, low-sugar diet, lean meats and so on. Well, over time, the woman lost even more weight, so now she looked gaunt, but not just that, her cholesterol was either just as high or higher, and her blood pressure didn't change, or it was even higher. So, and another example is me. When I was in my 20s, I was thin and I was lean and I got lots of compliments, but I was sick all the time. So thinness does not necessarily equal good health.
Sure.
And then on another end of that spectrum is when I worked at a fitness center, we had an aerobics instructor who, by all standards of social definitions, would be considered obese. And this lady had amazing energy and vitality and the ability to move that I didn't have because I was thin, but I was always sick with allergic asthma. So there's a lot of factors that play into weight, and it's not just thin equals good and overweight equals bad or unhealthy.
Sure. So when does weight become a problem?
Well, the problem is that we overeat for two reasons. One is because our bodies have addictions. We have addictions to sugar, fat, and salt, which is the three main ingredients that are used in processed foods, and oftentimes within those, combined in that way, sugar, fat, and salt. The other problem is that when we eat processed foods, our bodies aren't absorbing the nutrients. So what we're really seeking is that satisfaction is really to feel like nutritionally satisfied. But if we're not absorbing the nutrients, or they're foods that are not really foods, they're laboratory-made substances that our body doesn't recognize, then we never feel that absolute fullness. And then add to that, you have the toxin accumulations in our bodies that plug up the cells and don't allow them to exchange nutrients, or the poor elimination. And if we have poor elimination, then those toxins build up and create other health problems.
Okay. And then you see maybe issues with your weight at that point.
And then you might see the issues with the weight gain.
Or I shouldn't say weight gain, but the
loss,
issue of weight becomes a health issue at that point, whether it's weight gain or weight loss.
Yeah, exactly. Because the
Okay.
weight loss could be the
Very good.
malabsorption, exactly.
Okay. Now, why do you think that we have this major concern about obesity in our social structures?
Well, I've always wondered that. I mean, and I've done my own self-analysis when I watch myself and I watch people too. But ask yourself, why does it bother us to see overweight people? Why do we feel like we have to comment about it or think about what we think about when we see someone who we consider as overweight? Do we go, oh, that poor person, I bet you they have high cholesterol and they probably have a family, they're going to die soon and they're going to leave them. I don't think that we go there. I think the main thing is that we value thinness in this culture and now in this world, really, and we're afraid of becoming overweight ourselves. So that is a reflection of a place that we're afraid to get to. And we're afraid to get to that because it's not considered attractive, nowadays. And then, we have a lot of insensitivity from people, especially people who have never been overweight or people who don't have that addiction to food, and their attitude is, well, if they would just put their fork down, they wouldn't be overweight.
Oh,
and
sure.
we know it's not quite that easy.
Right,
because
absolutely not.
there's an emotional aspect to overeating as well as the physiological addiction. Some people have obsessions of over food. Some people obsess over money or gambling or shopping or controlling the lives of others. I mean, there's so many different ways that we seek control and satisfaction and safety, because what we're really searching for, I think, is feeling safe and secure. And that comes in different ways. There was a doctor one time that I spoke with, and he says, I don't understand why people are overweight. When I get on a scale, I weigh myself every day, and if I get on the scale and I gain a pound today, then I don't eat for the rest of the day. And I thought, well, that's not only insensitive, but it'd be great if it worked, because I think everybody would be doing it.
Right, absolutely.
But it doesn't take into account the emotional aspect and the physiological addiction that we have to food.
Mm-hmm.
And all it takes is for that person with that kind of attitude to either have a car accident, injure his back, or suddenly, let's say they have a sedentary job, or they have a big change of life, say they get married, or they move or something, and they have a big stressor happen in their life. They're laid up in bed, they can't exercise, they're bored, they're depressed, and they start eating, and it becomes a cycle, you know?
Right.
It becomes a very
It absolutely
big
does.
cycle.
It absolutely does. So we have this obsession about how weight makes us look, or how we feel, you know, when we think that we're being viewed as overweight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are indications about overall health that come from our weight, whether it's too much or too little.
Right.
But I think by a large part of our concerns about our weight is cosmetic.
Yes.
So what do you think is behind this social obsession with cosmetic appearance?
Well, I'd like to focus the next several comments about physical appearance with regards to women. Now, I know that over the years, men have become more of a focus when it comes to appearance. I mean, first there were the toupees and the hair dyes and the bodybuilding products, and now the facelifts and body implants. But the pressure that women feel to look a certain way has been the focus for eons. And with the advent of technology and media, the pressure isn't just toward the women in the United States, but it's worldwide. Now, women and men and boys and girls are flooded with advertisements about how women should look and where they can spend their money to achieve that. And if they choose not to follow the sheep, then the message is that they should feel inadequate. And speaking of inadequate, we've probably all seen men in public at some point or another that make it obvious that they're paying attention to other women besides the one that they're with. I think it's important for women to realize that this is often done by insecure men who are afraid of being abandoned. What they try to do is make their significant other feel that they better be good wives, good girlfriends, good cooks, good looking, good in bed, or else they'll leave them for someone else. And out of fear, women put up with the disrespect and to an extreme abuse. And oftentimes they think, it's a man, this behavior is normal. And it's not. Now, I'm not picking on all men out there. There are men who are secure in themselves and very respectful of women that certainly don't do this. The question is, how can we help to empower women so that they're not in these positions? So much about how a female feels as a woman and about her self-esteem, it depends on her experiences from the moment she was born. And if you believe in more esoteric aspects of life, it begins in utero, when that child or fetus is inside the mother, what it picks up from the mother and those around her. Let's look at some influences in general, like a series of concentric circles. Beginning with our birth, we receive constant messages from the world around us. The first people to influence us are our parents, or those who raise us. And then outside of that, we have our extended families, our friends, and mass media, society at large. Now, can we control these influences? What can be done to teach girls coming into this world, our daughters, our granddaughters, our nieces, our sisters, to feel empowered rather than deflated because of what's out there? Some things we can control, but others not so much. Let's start with the media, the social world. Things like ads on the side of the road we drive by. We may not be able to control that, but we can control the things that we choose to buy, watch, listen, or read. We can avoid purchasing things or paying attention to those things that are objectifying or degrading to women. And we can eliminate or minimize, at least, what comes into our homes. Of course, it helps to have all the adults in the house on board with the same plan. Now, let's move out to the social circles. As adults, we certainly can choose our friends wisely and make sure that they share a similar opinion with regards to women and respecting women. So with all of these external influences out there that shape how a girl becomes a woman, it's even more important that what she experiences in the home gives her a solid foundation with which to counteract the effects of the other factors that she can't control and that will come her way inevitably. However, as babies and little girls are at the mercy of the influence of the immediate and extended families throughout their childhoods. And there's little, if anything, we can control in our own families when we're that age. Now, oftentimes, the very people who love us aren't aware of how their words and behaviors mold us into the people we become. Children are very observant and more intelligent than we give them credit for. Someone once said, "A father's job is to make his daughter feel like she is the most beautiful woman in the world." Now, this really moved me, and it made me realize how important it is for a woman to have self-esteem and confidence instilled in her at a very early age. Not just from her father, but from everyone around her who's raising her. And at the very least, to counteract all of the negativity that she'll be exposed to throughout her life. I used to see clients as a hypnotherapist, and I've spoken with women along the way as well. And some of these women had watched the men in their families gawking at or commenting about other women. And oftentimes these women would meet specific criteria in terms of their faces and their figures. Now, these little girls who are observing these adult men start taking in these perceived realities about how they should look in order to get attention. And to a little girl, attention equals love. That's how a child feels love, is by getting attention. Same with pets, now that I think about it. And we know that this is true about kids because they misbehave to get attention, right? Good or bad punishment, they get the attention. So let's say a little girl grows up with the message that the women who get attention are the ones who look, dress, and act in a stereotypical way. And then the effects of these messages are often compounded by their friends, by the teen magazines, and kids' TV shows. I mean, even rated G movies oftentimes will have stereotypical cartoon characters that have certain measurements, certain eye or hair color, certain look, you know, like a Barbie doll kind of look. And women are trained to grow up that they're not attractive unless they look like these specifications. Now, the little girl, let's say she feels in competition with other females because of this. And her weapon of choice is most likely appearance. So she might start wearing makeup to attract boys' attention, or dress a certain way. And then she might want, as a teenager, chemicals in her hair to make it straight if it's curly, or blonde if it's black. And she may ask her parents for breast implants. Sadly, that is a request that happens in high school for graduation, and some parents have gifted their daughters breast implants at 16 or 18, whatever it is they graduate in, which is really sad. Now, this girl, who wants so much to feel loved, may even do things she's not emotionally ready for. She might give in to the pressure to have sex in order to get that love and attention from her boyfriend. Later on, she might find herself being away at college, possibly joining a sorority where there's more pressure to look a certain way, compete with other girls. And when she's old enough, she may get a job at a restaurant or bar where she dresses or undresses to attract attention. Because early on, she learned that attention is only gotten when you look a certain way and when you act a certain way. That girl, let's say she becomes now older in life, 40 and 50. Now she's a target of ads for wrinkle creams, chemical peels, facelifts, and Botox. And in her older years, 60s and above, pharmaceutical companies bombard her with messages that she'll have trouble walking and remembering things, and she won't feel attractive and or feel loved. And there are products and medications out there that will help with that, though. All right, or so we're told. My message is this: what a child learns at home will impact them for the rest of their lives. So to those people with daughters and granddaughters, nieces and sisters out there, tell them how beautiful they are, and tell them often. Counteract the external influences by reassuring them that the women on TV and in magazines look the way they do because they have an array of people doting on them, who get well paid, to make up their faces and their hair and their clothing. I've loved the TV show Top Model because they take a normal-looking woman who's like a canvas and they paint her up to look totally different. It's a fascinating view of real versus enhanced appearances. And also let your girls know that appearance is such a small part of life. Instill the confidence in them so that when they grow up, they're fine with the way they look, and also with what choices they make in life and what path they choose to follow. Whether they choose to be with someone or be alone, whether they choose to have children or not, whether they choose to like to cook or not, whether they want to be a homemaker or have a career. Let them know it's okay. She can fulfill her passion and her potential because that is where her happiness will come from. And that is what will make her spirit fly. Now, we're all part of a system that has evolved over several ages and generations, but not always for the better. But we can start waking up and becoming aware of things and what we can do to raise strong and self-confident, happy, self-secured women. And as I say, if mom is happy, everybody's happy.
And so true that is. So remember that no one is beautiful to everyone, but everyone is beautiful to someone. So thank you for watching. In our next video, we're going to talk about illness and how what we eat matters.
See you then.
Chibbity boo bop, is that the dang?